My name's Chris Phillip.
My name is Paul Anderson.
My name is Mark Boyd.
Hello, my name is Derek Combs and I listen to the Blue Army podcast.
My name is Matty Robson and you're listening to the Blue Army podcast.
I just hit record anyway, so we may as well just crack straight into things. Like, there's a lot to talk about this week, I suppose.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of news, so we'll plough through that, and then it'll just be a case of going from department to department and deciding who we think will be good recruits, I guess, coming into the squad.
I haven't got any ideas at all. Just like, I haven't had a chance to look at who's been released or who's available, so I just don't know.
All right, well, this will be fun.
Kylian Mbappe, I'll have a word with him. See, I'm really sorry.
Well, I mean, like, you did promise something similar last year, to be honest, mate. It's been a long saga now, this Mbappe saga, and
he stopped returning my calls.
Yeah, I was wondering what was happening there. I did hear some news coming from across the pond, like, to be honest, across the water, the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll crack on. Eesh, here we go. Oh, Reeds Maras, how's it going? And welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is episode 70. And I am thrilled to be joined by the two men I call my brain trust. It's, of course, Wills and Liam Denwood, if you couldn't have already guessed. How's it going, boys?
All right.
Not bad.
Probably guessed I've been busy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's it. But welcome back to the podcast, lads. This episode's going to be a bit of a brainchild from Liam Denwood, to be honest, mate. It's a transfer special. We've had a little bit of an opportunity. Well, me and Liam Denwood have had a bit of an opportunity to scour the released and retained lists of across the British Isles, and I've come up with a fair few players. I'm pretty sure, Liam, you've came up with a fair few players. Wills, you're all right.
Yeah,
You've got a brain. You've got a brain. You've got knowledge. You know, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm going to have. I'm sure the News and Star had an article, so
you'll be fine. Well, talking about the News and Star having articles, there'll be a little bit of news to cover. But before we get to the news, it's of course time for the traditions of the Blue Army podcast, which means we start proceedings off with the Blue Army podcast joke of the week. Is he having a laugh? I think he's trying to. It's the Blue Army podcast joke of the week. Right, gentlemen, here we go. What is an astronaut's favourite part of the computer?
No, I don't know.
Rumbled. The space bar. That is bad this week. I ran out of time. But yeah, that's the Blue Army podcast joke of the week, and we'll crack on with the birthdays, which have a couple of memorable names for me. Bit of a cult hero figure, Kelvin Atuhu, to kick off the birthdays. Only turning 34, gentlemen. Memories of Kelvin Atuhu fond. He's only 34. I'm sure you've got players older than 34 in your lists of today. But Kelvin Atuhu, is he going to feature for you?
I was there when he got injured. You know, the really bad injury he got? I think it was away at Port Vale. I was at that game. It was a bad tackle, if I remember properly. But he's not on my list. But he was a good player when he used to play for us back before that injury.
He was a good player. Any memories, Will?
Yeah, I mean, he came in and he was an experienced head in midfield, combative, he was physical, quite clever. But his time with us just kind of got messed up by injury. I'm sure he'd have played a lot more for us.
Yeah, I feel like he was one of those players that was very competitive, didn't really get like a massive full run of games in the squad, didn't seem to be any manager's favourite. Unfortunately, but still a favourite of mine, a favourite of one of my FIFA teams. I remember back in the day. Ian Bishop turned 57. Ian Dunburn turned 42. Alan Ross would have turned 80 this week. Omari Patrick turned 26, and Christy Elliott turning 31. Now, obviously, Omari Patrick turning 26, gentlemen. That's prime age for a footballer, you might say. Exciting things going into next season, but probably one of the big things on your list is somebody to compete with Dennis and Patrick and really add some quality to that strike partnership up front. But do you really feel like Omari Patrick is under any kind of threat from not starting the season? Wills, you kick it off, this time.
Well, I mean, I think there's probably going to be a role for him, whether that's as a striker or as a winger. It also depends kind of on what system that Simo wants to play. But because he's that good of a player and because he has a bit of versatility about him, I can't see him not being in the starting lineup next season.
Yeah, Liam, anything to add?
Yeah, just as long as he doesn't get a massive injury, he's probably going to be the first name on the team sheet. It'll be interesting to see what they do with his squad number, because I think he was number 10 or 11 when he left, and when he came back, they gave him a number 13 with a few other exits. I'd like to see him get a big squad number again, but yeah, that's the only real issue I can think with him. But he's a great player. He'll start the season.
Big issue, squad number.
Especially at Brooklyn Park. Lots of egos clashing there. But
kids
yeah,
waiting to get their shirts printed.
Well, that's it, man. Obviously, there'll be new kits coming out, new sponsors, obviously, so the kits are going to go through quite a bit of a change this year. So that's all to look forward to in the next coming weeks. In terms of news, gentlemen, there's been signings, there's been some contracts turned down, and there's been some contracts accepted. The first of which we'll cover the sort of bad news, I guess, in a way, which is, what perceived to be bad news anyway, which is Magnus Norman turning down a contract from Carlisle United and leaving us with no experienced goalkeepers at the clubs. I mean, Simo had some kind of plan for him, otherwise he wouldn't have offered him a contract. We don't know the conversation. We don't know if it was one of those ones where Simo said, I'm giving you a contract, but the idea is someone else is coming in and you're going to compete. You're not necessarily my number one. It's not a big, massive loss, I don't think, to lose an inexperienced goalkeeper, but it does leave me thinking, after recent comments by Paul Simpson about not wanting to recruit an experienced goalkeeper, and that's why I let other experienced goalkeepers go. Where's he looking? Where's this goalkeeper going to come from? Liam, do you have any ideas where you think this new number one's going to come from next season?
Well, for us, it's probably going to be your sort of 23 to maybe 29, that sort of age range. Whether it's free agents from League One clubs or something like that. He wants to bring in when Mark Gillespie was originally brought in years and years ago as a young player that he wants to sort of have as the number one for years to come. That's what I think he's wanting to do, because his whole vision has been built around long-termism. So I think that's what he's going to try and do. He's going to get an established number one now that can play for us for seasons to come.
Will, anything to add to that?
I was just looking to see where it actually said that he turned down his contract. I know there was a rumour, but I can't remember seeing anything saying that he had.
I did see something. I mean, to be fair, I only got mine off Instagram.
I saw something on the Facebook group that said with rumours that Norman and Dickinson had turned down their contracts. Obviously, since then, Dickinson has agreed the contract, so I don't know if there's been anything official about Norman.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. I mean, it was on the same day. I did see the rumours as well, and that's the next bit of news, Wills. You kind of touched on the next bit of news there. Brennan Dickinson did sign a contract with the club. We've all shared our views on Brennan Dickinson. Maybe would have been better off going to pastures new, but he's going to be with the club. I mean, Wills. Now it's happening. A lot of people have kind of turned on the knife edge and they've kind of said, I'd rather have him playing for us than not playing for us. I mean, is that the direction you're leaning in now?
Well, I don't think my view on him was necessary, beforehand was necessarily that, that we need rid of him. And, when it was announced that he had a contract, I think, like a lot of people, because Simo is Simo, you just kind of like say, well, we'll get behind what Simo thinks is right. Simo thought it was right to release Howard, raised a few eyebrows, but, we kind of like accept that and move on. Same with Dickinson and the fact that Dickinson's staying. But I think I've said before as well, the thing with Dickinson is he is a player that has certain quality. You see him on a good day and you're like, he's a good player. We just don't see that often enough. But whether that's because of the system that we've been playing or the coaching that he's had, or whether it's just the fact that we've been struggling a lot and some players will lower themselves to the level of the rest of the team if the team's struggling. Whereas you get other players that are more leading, like players that will lift the players around them to their level. So Dickinson's perhaps one of them kind of players who can maybe look a lot better if we have a good season.
Yeah, I mean, Liam, it's only a 1-year deal. Does that make you feel any better?
Yeah, it does. I haven't been I haven't given much praise to Dickinson in the past, but I think it's less the amount of time he's on the contract. I just hope he's taken a bit of a pay cut because he was, reported to be like our highest earner by quite a bit, and I don't think he really warranted a new contract with the, performances of the last 2 seasons. But again, I trust Simpson. If Chris Beach had done this, or Stephen Presley, or Keith Millen had made this decision, I'd be a lot more critical than what I am being now. But because it's Simpson, and because Colchester fans absolutely love Dickinson, he's clearly got something about him. So if Simpson can get it out of him, then I want him to prove me wrong. That's the underlying thing. I want Dickinson to come out and prove me wrong. It'd be a brilliant signing.
Yeah. Someone else that got a 1-year contract over the last week is Taylor Charters. He had a really good loan spell over there at Gateshead. He's accepted that contract, so he's going to be with us for another year. You're hoping that the Maryport-born Cumbrian is going to be a big part of things next season. Liam, yourself coming from the area, what does it mean to the area to have Taylor Charters in the squad?
Yeah, well, Taylor is he lives around near me, but he's a very good player, and I think if I remember correctly, I think that makes him the only title winner in the team now, which is quite funny being one of our youngest players. But it's mad to have that, and I think the 1-year contract thing is more of a matter of Paul Simpson saying, I don't really know enough about him to turn him down or give him a new contract. So I'm not going to sign him up on like a new 3-4-year contract. I want to give him a year to prove what he can do. And, obviously still being young and obviously being Cumbrian born, I think that's why he's given him the contract. And I think he does deserve it. And it uplifts the town of Maryport to have a professional footballer, from here. Glenn Murray was from here. It's just nice to have, around the spot.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great talent. I want to see more of him at League 2 level, and next season's a bit do or die, wouldn't you say, Wills?
For Taylor Charters, yeah. I mean, I think I was hoping that last season might have been his breakthrough season. It wasn't to be. I think it could be difficult for young players to break through when the team is struggling, and I've mentioned that before when we discussed, the pros and cons of him being sent out to Gateshead. But now he's got that bit of extra experience actually playing at a level not too far below us and actually winning something at that level. So you kind of think if he's gonna be an important player for us going forward, then kind of this season coming up has to be the season that he has his big breakthrough.
Yeah. I mean, that's most of the big news, really, apart from, obviously, Carlisle United making their first signing of the summer. We're talking about Carlisle-born Owen Moxley, the young lad coming over from Annan, formerly a part of the Carlisle United youth system, then moving on to other parts, ended up in Annan, and now back with the Cumbrians. Guys, it's a signing from essentially, I mean, do you guys class League 2 of Scotland a non-league level? Is that kind of the equivalency to? I mean, what's that level of football? Go on, Liam.
Non-league. We've had players that have come over from the Scottish Premier League and not done great here. Like you see, Gavin Riley made the trip the other way. He wasn't very good at Carlisle, but he got a shot at Scottish Premiership level. I feel like the lower end of Scottish Premiership is League 2, League 1 level. So to come from League 2, it's a nice signing, and it's a very like poetic signing. You know, Carlisle lad comes from Peter Murphy's Annan Athletic. You know, it's that kind of thing where it's like it's poetic, but I think he's got a lot to prove. I'd consider Scottish League 2 maybe around the same level as Workington Reds, something like that, around that National League North-South level. But yeah, it's interesting to see what he can do. And he's obviously still youngish, 24. You know, he's coming into what should be his good years. And if Paul Simpson thinks he's good enough, then so do I.
Yeah, Wills, I mean, do you feel that's a fair comparison to the old Workington Reds? And also, do you feel like this is a sign that maybe Paul Simpson, with the contract extension with Taylor Charters, is maybe trying to build a bit of a Cumbrian spine for next season with his team?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he kind of sees these players as being more likely to, you know, to want to play for the club and want to stay at the club. I don't know exactly how it actually, you know, how it works out with players when you are the manager and they're kind of like based in somewhere like Manchester or Birmingham or London and kind of like all, you know, constantly traveling up, you know, whether as a manager you feel because of the sheer distance between some of these, you know, where players live and Carlisle, that you're not really kind of, you know, it's affecting them in some way. So, you know, maybe he kind of feels that that'll help, and hopefully it will. I think Liam's comments are fair. Probably, I think that's where I would place sort of Scottish League 2 against the English League system, because I think even once you get down, I mean, certainly like Scottish League 1 is like at best conference level. So
yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah.
I'd say that's fair. But we'll move swiftly away from that sort of like murky waters, and we'll move on to what the episode is really about. Guys, obviously with the football season being over, we have to fill our time with what could be's, what should be's, and what might be's until the football starts again. And this is one of those episodes. We're going to be talking about potential transfer targets that we'd maybe like to see at Carlisle United this season. I mean, when I first started putting a list together this morning, there was 40 names on that list. So I've had to obviously dwindle that down quite a lot because, I mean, that's just too many people to talk about. But a couple of honourable mentions, and the main reason a lot of these names aren't going to feature on the main list for me, couple of honourable mentions though is age, guys. Age. I'm talking about Sol Bamba being 37 years old and Wes Houlihan being a 40-year-old. But either way, I mean, it's nice to see, isn't it? But guys, there's got to be a cut-off, doesn't there? Really? I mean, like in your own head, there's normally a cut-off when it comes to recruiting, and one of those areas where maybe you can be a bit more lax on age is goalkeeping. So let's start with goalkeeping, gentlemen. I've only got one name on my list, to be honest, because like I said, I had to dwindle it down, and I was trying to sort of guess where Paul Simpson is maybe trying to head in direction with a goalkeeper at this moment in time. I'm thinking somebody that has experience but isn't so old that they can't stay with the club for a couple of seasons. I've gone for a man called Alex Smithies, who's been released by Cardiff. He's got over 450 appearances in the Championship for various teams like Peterborough as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure he comes from the old. I mean, he's got a lot of first-team football, gentlemen, and I feel like he was a part of that England setup that Paul Simpson had something to do with. He was in and around that under-21 squad, and I feel like there's a contact there. Liam? Do you know the name? And obviously, is he on your list? And tell me what's on your list, goalkeepers.
I know who he is. He's not on my list. He would be a very, very, very good signing, but I think it's a little bit ambitious. I think he's maybe going to go to like a top League One club or something like that. It would take a lot. It would take his relationship with Paul Simpson that you mentioned to actually get him here. I didn't want to go for him. I've got 3 names on my list for goalkeepers. 2 that sort of would be first choice. One that if Magnus Norman doesn't sign on, come in as a backup. I've got Will Jaskalainen, which you two will not be surprised at one bit. I haven't mentioned it last week. But 23 years old from Crewe. He was a big part in when they got promoted from League 2 into League 1. And he was a big part in their first season in League 1 where they stayed up. Didn't play as much when they got relegated. Maybe there's a correlation there. But he's still only 23 with a wealth of experience at League 1 and League 2 level, just been released by Crewe, which I thought was very surprising. But apparently some Crewe fans don't think he's had a very good season. But whatever the reason is, he could be a very good signing for us. And like I said, with Paul Simpson saying he wants to, not wanting a really old goalkeeper and maybe planning for like long-termism, Will Jaskalainen fits all the criteria there. Then I've got Mark Gillespie, only age 30. When I looked at him, I thought he would be a lot older than that, but he's only still 30. So, you've still got, your goalkeeper's prime is probably about 28 to 30, something like that. So he's just coming at the end of his prime, and he's not really that aging goalkeeper like Mark Howard was. And obviously, he's not going to get into the Newcastle side. He's probably coming in 4th choice. And if Dean Henderson joins Newcastle, which there's talk of, he'll be pushed down to 5th choice goalkeeper. I think he should leave. And I think coming back to Carlisle will be a big, big move for him. 3rd, I've got Joe Cracknell. Very, very strange signing. 27 he is. Joe Cracknell. Just been released by Harrogate Town. He was their 2nd choice. He made eight league on 27. Maybe this season could be his season to go into the non-league and try and get first team football. But in my opinion, I think he'd make a very, very good 2nd choice goalkeeper.
All right, man. I mean, Wills, has anyone come into your head and have these names, are any of these names tempting you? Any of these names coming off the paper? Obviously, Will Jaskalainen, Liam mentioned the other week, and we were both sort of intrigued by that one.
Yeah. As Liam's mentioned him before, and I've heard kind of like rumours about Gillespie. I didn't kind of like realise that Gillespie was still only 30. I kind of like had him ahead that he was kind of like someone who'd been around for ages. It seems that, kind of whether Gillespie being sort of, because how long has he been at Newcastle? Is he
2 years now?
Yeah, so I was like, is that just 2 years of just not playing and whether that's affected him? Alex Smithies is one out of nowhere, because he's one that I kind of like remember. I remember him playing at Huddersfield when they were kind of challenging for promotion from League 1. At 32, I don't know if like we kind of think that from what Simo, even though he's still younger than Howard, is kind of what Simo's saying is that he wouldn't sign a keeper in his 30s at all.
Right, then maybe, yeah, maybe. I just feel like that roof's a little bit higher with goalkeepers, isn't it?
Yeah,
but you never know. I mean, like, I mean, they're all pretty pie in the sky. My choices, to be honest. There's a few ones in there that are mainly in there because of the link with Simpson as well, with that Euro under 21 squad, Euro under 20 squad kind of thing. So there are a couple of far-fetched ones on my behalf, but Liam, I feel like you've been a bit closer to the apple, as it were, and we'll move on to defenders. This is somebody that I've had my eye on for quite a while, and he's one of the older names on my list. I'm talking about Lee Peltier. He's somebody that can cover all across the back line, and I feel like Carlisle just need that versatile player next season that can have the experience and can also slot in anywhere across the back line. Obviously, formerly of Yeovil Town, he'll be being released by Middlesbrough at the end of last season. he comes from good stock. He's I'm pretty sure he came through Liverpool's youth academy as well. So
Liam.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh yeah, other Liam.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, Lee Peltier, obviously being 35 years of age, being released by Middlesbrough, being able to play all across that back line, having played at this level previously, not showing any signs of wanting to stop. I feel like he's a good choice to be the perfect utility man for the Cumbrians next season. Other defender, this one's a little bit controversial, I suppose you can say. He's somebody that is Carlisle born, but has been a bit of a rat in the past, and some Carlisle fans don't forget. I'm talking about Paul Huntington. There was a game when he was playing for Leeds that he had a bit of a moment, and a lot of Carlisle fans don't forget that moment. But in terms of an experienced, strong centre back, again, as somebody that's Carlisle born, and that incident being a very long time ago, I feel like that's an interesting proposition for him to drop down from the Championship to return to his hometown club. Somebody else that could return to Carlisle to the centre-back position is, of course, James Chester. That link with Greg Abbott coming back as a part of the recruitment side, I feel like makes that deal a little bit more juicy, him being recently released from Stoke. And the last name I've got on my defenders list is Reece Bennett. I feel like that's going to be a name that crosses over other people's release lists. So I'm going to leave that one open for you guys to discuss. Will, I'll let you go second on this one, my friend. Are there any defenders that jump to your brain or anyone off the list that I've already given you that sound like a juicy proposition?
So I mean, like Reece Bennett, Carlisle fans have kind of immediately started talking about him when it was announced he was being released by Morecambe, was it at? And I think because we talked about is the possible I've completely forgotten the name of the guy who manages Stevenage. You know, like why?
I have to Google it.
Yeah, he's like a famous guy, but him being connected with Reece Bennett and having signed him several times in the past, would he maybe go there? Stevenage seem to have done a lot of their business quite early on, so I don't know if they've already signed defenders now. Be quite happy to have Reece Bennett back personally. And then you do seem to kind of like go for the ambitious ones, Liam.
The links, though. There's links. There's links.
Chester, can't see.
Greg Abbott connection. You never know.
They're going to come and play in League Two just because the head of recruitment at Carlisle is someone he has fond memories of.
You'll pay him something. There'll be money involved. Get on the M6. That's all. Come on. Anything else, lad?
No, I couldn't think of anyone else. Not off the top of my head. Sorry.
Liam, is there anyone in your list that maybe I've missed?
I had Reece Bennett. I don't know how much I believe in it, but I had Ryan Fallowfield just been released by Harrogate Town. You know, something you'll notice with mine. You see, I've gone for a lot of League Two and below clubs. You know, so there is. I can see a pattern already emerging there. But Harrogate Town have just released him. I don't know much about him, but he's one that I sort of recognise the name of. And doing my research into him, he's played pretty much every minute of their season and had a big part in getting them promoted from the National League. Right back, he plays. So, you know, Mellow leaving could be a big sort of signing. 26 years old, he's coming into his best years. But he's just one that popped out to me.
Yeah. I mean, lads, we're already getting into a couple of debates here and there, and I feel like that's enough for part one, and we'll do midfielders and attackers in part two. That didn't take too long, and like I said, we'll cover the midfield and the attacking positions. And Liam, I'll let you take the lead on your list when it comes to the midfield, mate. So crack on. What have you got?
For the midfield options, I've got one from the National League, from Solihull Moors, which I think could be a bit of an option because of that connection with Greg Abbott. And it's Joe, I don't know how to pronounce it, Joe Sabara, Sparra.
Yeah,
He's been a very good attacking midfielder for them. He's scored a lot of goals. He's their second top goal scorer. Have you gone for that as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of two players I've got for Solihull Moors, but one will come in my forward section. But, he's only 23. he's only 23. He's got a lot of interest from League Two clubs. He's and with that links with obviously Greg Abbott, I think it's one that could definitely happen. He's not out of contract, so we would probably have to pay a little bit of money for him. But he's a player that I would like to see come here. We've paid money for other players in the past. Marty Patrick, Jordan Gibson. I imagine it'd be that kind of fee, obviously coming from a not professional club. And obviously this is going to be one that would only happen if Solihull Moors get beaten in that playoff final.
Yeah.
Because they're still in contention for Joe Sabara and the other best players that would leave otherwise. So this is So I'm going to be rooting for Grimsby in the playoff final, just in the hope that we do get Joe Sabara and to get Tristan Abrams, that sort of experience. But yeah, if they don't come up, he would be a big one. The other big name on the list I've got is Callum Cook from Bradford. You know how much Carl I love a Bradford reject. Still 25, one of their big players over the last few years. Callum Cook. He's a very decent midfielder, and he's very, very good at this level with a lot of experience. He's another one of those things that from this level, and obviously a club that we've got a history of, raiding. Callum Cook would be a big, big option for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on that release list from Bradford. Like, there's a few of them we're tempting to put on my list. Like, yeah. Are they your midfield options, Liam? Is that who you got?
Them, and I put Jay Spearing in there just as a bit of a just to pad out the list a bit. But yeah, I think he's getting on a bit now. But yeah, mainly Callum Cook and Joe Sabara.
Jeez, I might have overcompensated on my midfield list. But Wills, before I do mine, what did you think of Liam's recruits?
They're both players whose names I've heard in connection with us before. I think, the suggestion that we sign Callum Cook actually came from a Bradford fan. So, tongue in cheek, knowing that we're going to sign all their players. Greg Abbott used to be Bradford's head of recruitment, so I don't know if he kind of knows if these players know him from them types. And as we know, once you met Greg Abbott once, you want to always play for him. So, Joe Sabara, whatever, him from Solihull Moors.
Yeah.
I don't know about the background of the club, but I keep hearing people mention that they're one of these minted, non-league clubs. So obviously, if they don't go up, there might be players who still want to play in the league. But does that mean that we'd have to compete with them on wages? I don't know if they wages and we can play. And you think as well, it means if they do come up, it would cost a lot to get players away from them, and they probably wouldn't be leaving. So I don't know, but is a name I've heard. I've heard good things about how Solihull Moors play, so could be a good signing for someone at this level.
It's going to hinge. It's just going to hinge on whether or not that promotion happens for Solihull Moor or Grimsby, and who's going to be joining Carlisle next year in League Two. Gentlemen, are you ready for some ambition?
Go on then.
Because I'll kick us off. I'll kick us off with a little bit of ambition. I'm talking about a young man who was a part of Paul Simpson's Euro-winning squad. I'm talking about Tom Ince, who is 30 years of age, the son of Paul Ince.
I remember there was a
recently-
running joke about 10 years ago that we were going to sign Tom Ince.
Well, there's no reason why the time is not nigh, and the time could very well be nigh for Tom Ince. I mean, the shadows of the Michael Bridges rejuvenation story could very well rejuvenate a career just like Tom Ince's career back into the Championship if he was to spark something at the League Two level. And you would hope maybe that Paul Simpson connection is enough to bring Tom Ince to Cumbria. And I mean, it'd be great, wouldn't it, just to have Tom Ince? Stranger things have happened. Pascal Chimbonda, Vincent Perricard. Stranger things have happened. Ian Hart. Stranger things have happened. So Tom Ince is on my list there. Somebody else who is who is more experienced than Tom Ince, recently released by Sunderland. I'm talking about Aidan McGeady. I'd like to see Aidan McGeady at Carlisle United. Obviously, recently being released by another Northern team. And I feel like he'd show great leadership in a changing room that needs somebody that can probably come in there and be the leader and really take that changing room to the next level. I don't think Callum Guy necessarily would be that bothered if he was demoted to vice captain next season, if the right personnel was coming in with the right kind of experience to replace him as captain. And I feel like Aidan McGeady would be a hell of a shout to fill that position. Whether or not the wages we can afford them is a different story, but I feel like Aidan McGeady is going to be 42 years old and playing for Marine one day. That's just the kind of direction I see him heading in. Someone on the list that maybe is a bit more realistic is 20-year-old Scotty Pollock. He's sort of famous because he was made famous on a YouTube channel called #United. Then he got signed by Northampton Town, played a lot under Keith Curle. He won Northampton Town's Young Player of the Year in 2019. I feel like he'd be a great shout. He can play in the centre of the midfield, behind the front two, up front or on either side of the wing. A very versatile young player, 20 years of age, and he looks desperate to be a professional footballer, so I don't feel like the long journey up north would be too daunting to him. A winger that I've got written down, and one of the few appearances from a Scottish team, is Jamie Murphy from Hibernian. He's been known to score a lot of goals as a striker and can also play out wide on the right. So I feel like if we're going to get a really good front three, Dennis in the middle with Murphy on the right and Omari on the left, that'll be a great front three going into next season. And Dennis and Murphy do have a little bit of a history playing together in Inverness, I think, or Kilmarnock, one of those two teams. I think I saw their names being linked together. And the last name on my list that I'm going to bore you with, gentlemen, because it's one of the more realistic names I've got left written down, recently released by Ipswich, is Tom Carroll. A player that was brought through the Tottenham Youth Academy and has recently been released by Ipswich after just a bit of a stuttering career, never really getting started. But again, one of those players that has a relationship with Paul Simpson because he's been involved at England from the under-16 levels up until the under-21 levels. And there's been conversations held there in the past. You would imagine any one of those names, guys, any one of those names at all, realistic? Do you think, like, at all, like any the closest thing to realism at all? Any there?
They're all very much Football Manager signings, aren't they?
Such a burn.
Ouch.
Aidan McGeady's interesting, though. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, if Paul Simpson would sign a player at 36, but you're talking about
Paul Simpson himself was a 36-year-old left winger when he played for Carlisle.
Yeah, but he's just made it sound like he wants a more youthful team, and that's kind of his big thing. But for me personally, is the kind of player that I could see being good in League Two this season. Kind of like, you mentioned Jay Spearing, and we kind of think, well, Jay Spearing's had his season in League Two, and now he's maybe going to retire or drop even further if he wants to play. Aidan McGeady is maybe will kind of like drop further after one season in League Two or a couple. I think you mentioned Wes Houlihan when you were talking about the defenders, another player who at an advanced age has kind of come and played in League Two and had a really good season. They don't always have a really good second season, but yeah, I would quite fancy someone like Aidan McGeady to come in.
It'd be good, right?
Yeah.
It'd be good. Liam, does Scott Pollock maybe seem like from Northampton seem like a bit more of your kind of signing, maybe?
Yeah, if any of them were going to happen, it would be that one. But I think he's spent a lot of time out on loan, even from Northampton. I think he was in non-league not so long ago. But yeah, he's the type of player that you can imagine a club like Carlisle taking a bit of a gamble on. And did you say he'd been released? Has he been released by Northampton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's worth a chance, but him out of all of them, he would be the one that is
the closest thing. That's the non-football manager signing. The closest thing to a non-football manager signing. There's two other names on this list, but to be honest, they both Simo connections and they're both a bit daft. But yeah, we'll move on to attackers. And why don't we trade blows for this one, gentlemen? There's so many names on my list for attackers. I feel like it's a bit more fun for us to sort of trade names for a little bit. Wills, since you've had the least time to prepare, I'd imagine that thinking of an attacker that's maybe being released might be not necessarily an easy task, but something that you can definitely grasp from the top of your head. Somebody that might tempt you to play for Carlisle next season. Who comes to your mind first, mate?
I can't think of a single free agent attacker. I just really haven't had. Sorry, I'm really sorry. I haven't had chance.
Andy Carroll.
I've just been really. Yeah. I think Lacazette's getting released by Arsenal. So.
Aye, Lacazette. Yeah, that would be. Why do you think Lacazette would be a good signing for Carlisle? Will? Liam, mate, you want to kick us off with a name?
I've got quite a lot for attackers. The first one on the list is Jack Diamond. He's just one we've been linked with a lot. 22 years old. More realistic. Sunderland. He's still in contract with them, but I feel like they're going to either send him out on loan again or release him. Or, sell him for a small fee. That's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good name, man. That's a good name. I'll trade you for Isaac Vassell. A player that's been released by Cardiff. He skipped over League 2 and 1 on his way from non-league. He got signed. I think he was playing for like Garsley or something like that in non-league, and then got signed for the Championship side. He played for Luton, did really well for Luton, and then played for Birmingham. Didn't do so well for Birmingham, and now finds himself being released by Cardiff. But like I said, he's kind of skipped over that League 1 and 2 level, and I feel like he can play all across the front line, left, right, and in the centre, and he'd probably be a little bit. He's untested at this level, but you'd like to feel like he'd be too good for this level. But also one of those signings that might just fall through the cracks from League 2. You know what I mean? And just end up at one of these kind of sides if we can get the recruitment right. Yeah, man. Who else have you got?
A bit one that's a bit out there. Freddie Price. He was released by Morecambe. He played, I think, 11 times for them, scoring 1 goal when they got promoted. Hasn't played as many games in League 1. But, he's a young lad, obviously not far away, coming from, playing for Morecambe. And he's one of the ones that you just, you'd take a chance on. He's obviously not going to be on massive wages coming from Morecambe, their youth academy. But he's 20 years old. He could be worth a shot.
I got sort of like 2 lads that have been released from Preston that I feel like both of them would be really good signings for Carlisle United. Izzy Brown has got links with Paul Simpson. He was involved in the under 18s and 17s while Paul Simpson was involved at the England setup. So it'd be somebody that he would have heard of before, somebody that he would have had a conversation with before, just a player that, just he looked exciting at a certain time, but just really hasn't managed to get going at the Championship, and maybe dropping down a level or two, he might finally find some traction. And the next one is Tom Barkhuizen, who is 28 years old, a player coming into his prime, and he averages a goal every 4.7 games. And I feel like it's important for us to find a player that can contribute goals consistently, just for us to mount any kind of
was
playoff
Barkhusen
challenge.
One of the top scorers in this division when he played for Morecambe before going to Preston. Yeah.
So like, obviously, one of those players it's a no-brainer. So he'd probably be caught by a lot of sides, but you'd hope that with a couple of connections and a couple of cheeky handshakes, it might be something that we could make possible. Will, any of these names tempting you so far for these attackers?
Barkhusen kind of jumped out at me because I remember him having a very good season. Isaac Vassell sounds... I remember him being sort of like hot property or something. I think it was linked with a few clubs at this level before kind of going a bit higher. But he kind of like imagine him as one of those players that kind of isn't really able to compete at a lower level, if you know what I mean. You know, you get players that kind of drop down to a lower level, and because they've not played at that level before, the certain kind of players that kind of like just immediately don't fit in.
Yeah, fair dues. Liam, do you want to crack on with your list, mate? Have you got anyone else?
Andrew Dallas from Solihull Moors. He's very much in the same boat as Joe Sabara. He's the only one that's scored more goals than him. He's only 22 as well. You know, two very good young players from Solihull Moors. You know, and I don't think he's played every game this season and haven't scored that many goals. I think it's 19 he's got. It's a very good return for a striker of his age. You know, he's very prolific and he's still only young. So I think it could be a very good signing for Paul Simpson. And again, it all rests on whether Solihull Moors get promoted or not. Because Solihull Moors, yes, they're owned by a rich sort of owner, but they strike me as the kind of team that's sell, reinvest. They're that one of them sort of clubs, like a Southampton is a good example of one of them. But that's I think Andrew Dallas would be a very good signing from us. I think you had him on your list as well, didn't you?
Well, actually, mate, I was looking at the big man himself. The reason why Andrew Dallas has so many goals is because he does play so regularly with a man who is 6'9" called Kyle Huden, who is a bit of a non-league Peter Crouch-esque player. He's the tallest player in well, technically he is a professional because that's the contract he has at Solihull Moors, but he's the tallest professional footballer in the English game right now. And I feel like he's one of those options that not every team has. And if Simpson wants to be looking for set piece plays, then it's going to be great to have that option coming off the bench. And he looks quite good with his feet as well. But yeah, that was the other name from Solihull Moors that I had actually on my list. Is he somebody that you guys have seen any video footage of? This huge 6'9" guy from Solihull Moors? Will, no?
No.
I've
seen him.
Well, I've heard of him, but I've never really considered him as a. Get them both. Get him at, just
get all
replicate
three of them.
That partnership.
Just
exactly. Just go on a big raid of Solihull Moors.
We're just going to raid Solihull Moors. Right, we have to tag them now. Right, we have to make sure Tristan Abraham's is psyched for the next game. I mean, another name that I had on my list is being released by Bolton. I was talking about Nathan Delfonso, somebody that's never quite lived up to potential. Does have links once again, similar links with that Euro squad. And perhaps because he's been down to this level and played at this level before, it's not going to be a big shock to his system. And he knows that Carlisle is a pretty decent outfit for this level. And only 30 years of age, so still lots of football for him to play. I mean, any of these names will actually tempting you, the Solihull Moor boys, or indeed Nathan Delfonso?
Not hugely, no.
nothing making your mouth water right now. I mean, what about Connor Wickham from MK Dons? He just turned 29. Another player that never quite got going, but seemed to have bags of potential. I mean, whenever he gets going at a side in his first sort of couple of games, he always looks good, and then it just sort of just seems to peter out for him. Connor Wickham, I think, could be a decent signing for Carlisle. Liam, anyone else on your list?
I had another one that was quite out there, and that's because he hasn't played at all this season. And it's Courtney Senior, who's just been released by Newport County. He played a lot of games for Colchester, and then was bought by Newport County. got a cruciate ligament injury right at the very start of the season, which took him out for the entire season. It reminds me a lot of Brennan Dickinson, the way he comes in right after injury. You know, Colchester fans obviously love him. But yeah, he's a very, very strange one. He's one that I saw on the list and I'd never heard of him before. So I looked him up and, you know, he's got quite a good past in the game. Still only 24. But that injury could have put him off quite badly. Being out for a full season injured, you know, it doesn't set you up nicely. But he's got experience in League Two. He originally from Brentford, you know, he's come from a sort of a very good progressive youth academy. He had a loan first at Wickham when they were in League Two, didn't really hit the ground running, went to Colchester, had a slow first season, really established himself in his second season, had 3 seasons at Colchester, 4 even, and then went to Newport, where he got that injury. So he could be one that you take a chance on. He's another one that's realistic because, you know, he isn't going to be hot property. But if you can get him playing how he was playing when he was at Colchester, I think there's a real player in there that I think is worth a chance.
Sounds a bit of a curveball, man, but sounds all right. Somebody that's been linked with Carlisle quite heavily, so I feel like I had to mention him, is Will Grigg, turning 30 this season. I don't know why I said that like it's the birthdays, sorry. But Will Grigg is 30 years of age. Somebody that has absolutely banged at this level before and then not really been able to get it going anywhere else since. Jake Young from Forest Green Rovers is 21 years of age, can play anywhere across the front three, is rapid speed, not unlike Ashley Hunter, who was recently released by Salford. Will any of these names actually tempting you now?
I mean, Will Grigg. So I didn't realise he was still only kind of like, well, he just turned 30. He's about to turn 31, yeah. I don't know if it'd come down to this level, though. It hasn't really worked out for him at Sunderland, but he has done well previously in sort of League One level, MK Dons and at Wigan. He's done does he still play international football? I don't know. He's got 13 caps. Maybe he's finished that now. I'm not sure why he'd be so strongly linked with us.
Yeah, it's a Sunderland connection, I think.
Yeah.
Clickbait, innit? It's just whatever tempts us. Put any kind of viral name next to Carlisle, we'll click on it.
Yeah.
Liam, have you got anyone else left on your list?
Sorry, just not to break your heart, but about a few hours ago, Young's just signed a 3-year contract with Bradford. So he's one that we've just missed out on.
Okay.
But apart from that, Will Grigg, I just remember watching him on Sunderland till I die. He reminds me a lot of he feels like a Zach Clough kind of signing where he's gone for big money in the past, and that's what's got people excited for. I think he was the most expensive signing in League One at one point. You know, I think he went for about 2 or 3 million. But you know, he could come here and do really well. He could come here and be dreadful. But I don't think he'd drop to League Two. I think he'd want to stay at a top League One club or even go higher than that. But yeah. If we can get him in, it's a statement signing. It's one of those ones where it's like, look at us, look who we can get if we want. But yeah, that's pretty much it on Grigg.
It'd be juicy. Will, have you got anyone now that you'd pick as bringing in as a Carlisle striker?
Of the ones mentioned over the last sort of like bit, probably Barkhausen.
Yeah, that would be your go-to striker.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of names thrown around today, gentlemen. Do you have anyone that you'd left to mention, Liam, that you'd like to mention that we've maybe skipped over?
I had Ashley Addison on there just because I have fond memories of him, but he didn't want to come back up here. He's been offered a new contract. I don't think he's accepted it. Davis Gill done, but I think he's going to Tranmere Rovers, just been released by Oldham. And a bit of an unrealistic one, Luke Molyneux from Hartlepool, but I think he might go to a higher level. I think it's a case for him of he hasn't been released. He just wanted to not accept the contract to try and get a move somewhere higher. But yeah, that's my list. There's we've gone through a lot of good names there. I think you've covered Championship very well, and I've got the ones from sort of lower down. But yeah, it's.
That's a nice way to summarize it at the end there. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen. And it's one of those episodes, like I said, where we've just got to sort of create our own content, and I feel like we've made a really good job of it. Thank you so much for joining me. There'll be other specials for the listeners to enjoy across the summer schedule. And Liam Denwood, now I have you here. It's time for me to challenge you once again. It's that time of year, my friend, for the fantasy draft. Do you accept the challenge for round 2 of the fantasy draft?
I do accept it, but which football manager are we doing it on?
Well, all will be revealed on our next episode of the Blue Army podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure, and all that's left to really do is say bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.